Go into your kitchen and pull out a jar of black pepper or nutmeg. You probably bought these for a couple of dollars at the local grocery store, and they sit completely forgotten on a shelf. 600 years ago, those exact same ingredients operated as currency. Black pepper was known as black gold, used to pay taxes, settle property rents, and even cover the ransom Alaric the Visigoth demanded to spare the city of Rome. The supply was incredibly restricted. You couldn't just plant these spices anywhere. They grew strictly in highly specific ecosystems, like the lush tropical environments of India's Malabar coast. This map shows medieval trade routes across Asia. Goods navigated a massive gauntlet of overland paths, while merchants inflated prices at every stop. But when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453, it severed these routes, sparking a severe European supply chain crisis. With the land routes blocked, massive profits from the spice trade were suddenly up for grabs. Whoever could find a direct ceiling to the source would capture the wealth and influence that had sustained the Venetian Empire for centuries. To dodge the Venetian and Arab middlemen who controlled the land, European traders were forced to look toward the uncharted oceans. We often assume early explorers were hunting strictly for gold, but when Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand Magellan set sail, they were driven heavily by the scent of spices. This diagram shows how those old land networks were bypassed. The desperate attempt to sail straight to the Spice Islands in India pushed ships around the Cape of Good Hope and sent others entirely across the Atlantic, inadvertently locating the Americas. The boundaries of our modern maps were drafted by a desperate human pursuit for culinary flavor. Let's look closely at cinnamon. For thousands of years, it was highly coveted, but its true origins in places like Sri Lanka were kept an absolute secret. Arab merchants wanted to protect their immense wealth, so they fed European buyers pure disinformation. They spun elaborate myths about giant Cynomologicus birds that built nests out of heavy cinnamon sticks on sheer cliffs, keeping their customers terrified, ignorant, and willing to pay exorbitant prices. Nutmeg was an even tighter geographic target. It grew natively on just one tiny speck of land on Earth, the Banda Islands in Indonesia. To secure a complete global monopoly over that nutmeg, the Dutch East India Company employed absolute brutality. They systematically enslaved and massacred the local island populations to control the crop. This visual comparison shows the lengths empires went to for control. To resolve a violent competition, the Dutch signed the Treaty of Breda in 1667. They traded away the island of Manhattan to the British, specifically to secure a tiny nutmeg-producing island called Run. Behind the mundane jars sitting on your shelf is a foundation built on deliberate disinformation, corporate monopolies, and imperial violence. When European traders reached the Americas, the Columbian Exchange introduced an agricultural export that disrupted the spice market, the chili pepper. Unlike Old World spices that required highly specific tropical environments, chilies had a massive biological advantage. They were easy to cultivate in diverse climates all over the planet. Portuguese and Spanish traders picked them up, and within just a few decades, fiery chili pods were integrated into the agricultural landscapes of India and Southeast Asia. The Ottoman influence carried new varieties into Eastern Europe. Once those peppers reached Hungary, they were dried and ground into paprika, becoming the defining seasoning of Hungarian kitchens. Because they were easy to grow, chilies provided intense heat to people historically priced out of expensive imported black pepper. They made global flavor accessible to everyone. Returning to the modern kitchen cabinet, the seeds and barks inside represent the first threads of a global network that pulled distant continents together. It's a history marked by imperialism and exploitation, but it is also the mechanism that forced completely disparate cultures into contact with one another. That contact built a shared, living global plate where food constantly adapts and cross-pollinates across borders. When you shake a dash of pepper onto a breakfast egg, you are consuming a tangible record of fallen empires, ancient mariners, and the birth of early globalization. If you want to keep exploring how travel, culture, and life connect through history, hit the subscribe button to join our channel. And to continue living life as a global citizen, check out the links in the description to listen to the Dusty Roads podcast and sign up for the A Bus on a Dusty Road newsletter.